Can we see? Oops. Yeah. Trouble is, I'm not going to be able to see when it does that weird. I'm not going to be able to see when it does the weird thing that says, "Are you still there?" Swipe this over. So if we stop at any point, hello, hi Rose. I'm going to have to like lie down and say hello. Hello. I'm doing it this way so that we can all see what I'm painting today. So I'm sorry that I'm upside down. But hello. I'm a bit concerned that TikTok turns you off every now and again after a period of inactivity. So if it does stop at any point, I am keeping an eye out on here. So I should be able to notice, and then I'll go back live straight away. So if it does cut out at any point, hopefully I'll get back on as quickly as possible. Rose, hello. I don't know which Rose you are. Which Rose are you? Hello. And it doesn't look like I can see all of the, oh gosh, oh no. Right. Oh, I'm worried that this isn't going to work very well, but we're going to go with it and hopefully right, just make sure that doesn't fall down. Right, are we all here? Is everybody? Oh, hello, Rose. Wow, it has been a long time. Oh gosh, this is falling down. That's not good. Hang on. Oh gosh. What a palaver. Let's see if that is any better. Sorry about this. I don't know if I can see all of the comments as well. Right, okay, we're going to go ahead. Everyone on YouTube, can you see me? Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, or please just send a little message. Or is there anyone on TikTok that could just double check on YouTube and make sure that you can hear me? I think you can. Oh, hang on. Yeah, it seems to be. Oh, yeah, it looks like it's picking up. Hello. Right. Emma sent me Charlotte's TikTok the other day that I had no clue. Oh, I am on here. Yes, I'm on here and we are making different things every month. So this month we are doing watercolors. As you can see, we're going to learn something beautiful like this. I'm going to be trying to show this to two cameras at the same time. So I'm really sorry if there are any technical issues, but you know, we've just got to go with it and let it go. I haven't painted my nails, so that's good. Again, we're just going to have to go with it. We're getting painty. It's all good. We're going to make beautiful pictures rather than beautiful nails. I think, oh, hello, Charlotte. I don't know if I'm seeing all. Oh, hi, Hendy. Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting there. Charlotte, can you just double check YouTube, please? Hey, Hendy. How you doing? Hello, Mary. Oh gosh, you can just see my eyelashes and my roots. Right, I'm going to stop saying negative things about myself now. Oh, Sandra. Hello, Sandra. Can you hear me? Yes, like I said, we're going for a different angle today, so you can see everything that I'm doing, but it's a bit awkward for me because good. I now have better internet, so I'm hoping that there won't be the glitching that we've had before. Although this morning it freaked me out because everything just went down and I had no internet, so that was nice and fun. Hi, Anna. How you doing? I'm waving up that way. So yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, if it cuts out at all, it's because you're up there and I can't see the screen. So if it cuts out, it's because it's timed out and I haven't done that like slidey jigsaw thing. But I should notice because I'm also watching it on my iPad. So hopefully I will be. It's all right, Charlotte. Sandra's checked YouTube, so we're all good. Hopefully we will be all good. So this month, we are learning watercolors, and we are going by the end of this session. I hope you will have painted something like this. So, and the way I'm going to do this is that I'm going to teach you little mini lessons, and then we're going to kind of use those lessons and create each step of this picture. I hope everyone's there. I think we're waiting for a couple more. So I'll give it just a couple of minutes. Hi, Dad. I assume that's Dad. Does anybody have any questions about I could just see that little gap in my lashes. It's annoying. Does anyone have any questions about watercolors before we start? I can't see how many. Oh, we've got a few people on. That's good. Why isn't that? It's very annoying. Right. Oh, thanks for the likes. I had my box ready to open on the live. I normally have a practice with a box and then I open another one on the live. And I thankfully just had a little peek in the box that I had, and it was a tie-dye kit. So that's fun. Right. Let's oh, hang on. Right. I've got to go. Oh, lovely to see you, Rose. Thank you very much for joining. Right, what's the board, salt, and washing fluid for, or will all be revealed? It will all be revealed. I will go through every single thing that we are going to use in our kit. Right, so first of all, we have, well, one plastic cup. I'll put it so you can actually see it. We have our watercolor palettes. Now, what I've done with these is I've used, this is a bit of a trick that you can use if you're going to buy watercolor palettes. So you can buy, you've probably seen the watercolor kits with the little pellets of watercolors in them. They're great, but for what you get, they're quite expensive. So what you can buy is watercolor paint in tubes, and it is wet, and you put it into each one of your sections, There are hundreds of different colours that you can get, but I'm going to teach you a bit of painting colour theory. And for what we're doing today, these are all the colours that you will need. And I've put them in these. They look pretty superfluous. They look pretty big, but you can use these for lots of different mixing. And if you ever want to get some more watercolors, you can add them in. So see this as your starter kit. You do have a little thumb holder if you want to ever stand and do watercolors. Yeah, your plastic cup was just for water. I'm really sorry that it was all a bit of a squish this month. I was making sure that everything was okay to fit in, but I didn't really take into consideration that these needed to fit in. So they were a bit kind of wedged in. So I'm really sorry about that. Right. So you have your watercolor pad. This is one that I've been using earlier, so it's not a brand new one, but we're going to be using that. Your board. Again, this is the one that I've used before. Shall I lift this up a little bit? You can see my... your board is what we're going to be using to keep our paper flat. You've got a selection of paintbrushes. You should have a small, medium, and large one. Some of them might not be as large as this one, but you will have a small, medium, and large paintbrush. You've got a pencil. And you've got these two very tiny little pots, one of masking fluid and one of salt. Okay, and I will show you what you are doing with all of these things as we go along. So, are we all good to... I haven't seen Diane yet. I hope that she's around. Right. So, yeah, you will need a little bit of water. If you can get a jug of water and your pot and then something to pour your water into, that would be very helpful. I've got a bowl and then I've got a big jug of water because we will be needing to change our water. If you're close to a tap, you can kind of go off, chuck it out and get some more. But it may be that you we might be, gosh, my brain. We're going to be changing the water. The water is what we are using to create lighter colors. Right. So if you've got some water in a jug and then something to discard your water into, if you've got some kitchen roll, I'd grab a bit of that. You don't have to, but just maybe grab a piece or two of kitchen roll. So when we are all good, give me a thumbs up when you've got all of that. I probably should have said that right at the beginning. I'm really sorry. So keep this here so you can have a little idea of what we're going to be doing. Right, I've had some likes from Charlotte. Thank you very much. Right, I'm going to just close that. Okay. Thumb. Thanks for writing thumb. Right. So the aim of watercolors, we are not fighting anything, okay? We are learning how they work. We're allowed to make mistakes. Come into this with curiosity. Come into it with a, oh, it did that, rather than a, oh no, it did that. What a mess. We're working with water mainly, and water moves on different surfaces. We can do our best to make sure it doesn't, but it is a bit of a balance between getting the right amount of water. Sometimes you'll put too much on, sometimes you won't do enough. You can watch this video again, so you can try again, and you can try the exercises as many times as you want. But right, we're gonna get on. Are we all good? let's get on and do some watercolors. So I'm going to go through 5 different techniques and we're going to end up with this finished painting. So we're going to learn about masking fluid. We're going to learn about water control, about color mixing, about salt for texture, and we're going to learn some brush techniques, okay? So what we're going to start with is if you can get your board first. Put this at the top, just for anyone that doesn't know. There we go, a little bit of advertising there. Right, we're starting with our board and we're going to get a piece of paper, piece of watercolor paper from our pad. Just take one page off, keep it up the same way that it was in the pad and stick it on, put it on your board. Oh, hang on, we've got masking tape as well. Where is my masking tape? That's fun, isn't it? Oh, it's over there. One sec. So we use masking tape to stick our paper to our board. When you get paper wet, it tends to buckle, and the buckling can sometimes be a bit of a problem with watercolors. It helps to keep the paper flat and it also creates this really lovely clean border. So you've already framed your picture. Hi Lola. Before you've even started, well, and when you've finished, you can pull this tape off, and there is a technique to taking the tape off as well. And I will show you that at the end. So get your piece of paper, put it evenly on your board, get some masking tape. And this is low tack driving. I've just read driving lesson. Well done, Lola. I'm really glad you've got your first driving lesson next week. Hope it goes well. So this is low tack masking tape. If you get a piece long enough to go along the top edge, and when it gets really close, you can see through it to the bottom. It doesn't have to be exact. Maybe just give it about 1 centimetre. Push it down. And we're going to do that all the way around. Try and make it so that the border is about the same width all the way around. Oh, Lola's got her theory test. You're going to book your theory test as well. Good luck, Lola. You'll be fine, I'm sure. Okay. So we're only going to be doing this for our main piece. We are going to be painting a little bit on pieces of paper on their own, just to show you the difference in how it can help to keep it flat. Okay, so we've done our masking tape. So now we're going to put this aside and we're going to do some practice on another piece. Okay, so this is going to be your finished piece of art. Let's put that there. Just move this so that you can see a bit better. Right, on another piece, get another piece of paper. If you get a little bit of the gum on the side of your paper, you can just pull it off. That's absolutely fine. We're going to get some water in our cup. You only need, on these little cups, you just fill it up to about level 3 or something. You don't need loads of water. I've just splashed some on my page. Right, and we're going to be getting, I really should have just given myself a box because, there we go. I haven't actually got all the things that I need. Right. You've also got your little dabbers, your little spoolies. Okay, with your pink spoolie, and yes, it is a lipstick spoolie, we're going to open our masking fluid. This stuff is like very tacky PVA glue, and it's very thin. Oops, this one has been open already, so I've got little bits of dried stuff on it. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to try and we'll use our little spoolie, dip it in our masking fluid, and we're going to paint some wiggly lines with it. We don't want this to be left too thick. Okay, we're just going to paint some wiggly lines like this. If you get a bit of a blob where you first started, go over it again, because we don't want it to be too thick. We don't want it to be too thin. You want a nice solid couple of lines, maybe do some squiggly lines, go over it again the other way, maybe some swirls, couple of dots. Don't know if you can see that. Okay. And then this is going to dry. You can just have a little go with it just to see what it does, okay? Just draw a few lines, not too thick, not too thin. So you should be able to see. Quite hard to see, isn't it? Okay, I'll show you and this stuff does dry quite quickly if you don't do it too thick. Right, put the lid back on your masking fluid because it will dry up. If you get it on your fingers, don't worry about it too much. Okay, now it's time to get our paints out. We're going to just open our paints. So watercolors, as you can probably guess, are activated with water. You should be able to see the bits of the masking fluid that are completely dry. You can kind of touch it and it's not tacky anymore. You'll be able to see the bits that are still really wet. So we're not going to paint on that at the moment because we don't want the masking fluid to get on our good paint brushes, okay? We just want to go over the masking fluid when it's completely dry. So masking fluid, I've kind of forgotten to tell you the main gist of this. Watercolor paints are they're very good at being very strong when you need them to be. And we don't, if you've noticed, there's no white in watercolor because what we do is we use the white of the paper and we use water to water it down. Okay, so there's not many things. If you're ever painting, you never really need white or black because nothing that you're going to see in a landscape is perfectly black and nothing is going to be perfectly white. You think it is, but it's not. It's always some shade off white or off black. So get your paintbrush wet and you can pick any of the colors. And with some water already on your brush, I want you to work in a little bit of the paint. I also, just a little pet hate of mine, I never want to see anybody leaving their paintbrushes in the in the water because it ruins them. It ruins them completely. So please don't ever leave your paintbrushes in your water. So when you've got some paint on your paintbrush, you can paint over the masking tape. get some more water, and what you can do is add some water on your paper. You can add it to your paper or to the paint. Okay, just paint over a bit of the masking tape a bit. Clean off your brush. And then try again with a different color. Again, make sure you're not painting over a bit that has very wet masking fluid. So can you see the masking fluid is, fluid, not tape. The masking fluid is stopping the paint touching the paper. Just have a little go, have a little play. This is a Curious Octopus Curious Paint Night. There is no wrong. You can't go wrong with this. You can just experiment and try things, okay? Don't worry if your paints mix a little bit. Have a little play. And as you can see, the paint needs a bit of water to activate. You can use the side of your brush if you want to. And we've got our grey. I will go through all the colours at some point in this workshop as well. I'm going to be going through everything, so don't panic too much. If there's things that you don't understand, I'm going to be going through everything, but I can't do it all straight away. Right. So try not to get it too wet, just for the sake of the fact that we're going to want to remove our masking fluid in a bit. Right. If you've got something like that, we're going to leave that for a minute. And we're going to go. So the thing is with watercolors is you always need a bit of time for things to dry. So this is why we're going to be jumping from one thing to the other as quite a lot, because we're going to want that to dry while we go on to our main piece. And then while the main piece is drying, we're going to go back to our experimental pieces. So if you move this out the way and put it somewhere that it's going to dry, bring your main piece back, and we're going to use the masking fluid to add a circle in this top corner where we want our moon to be. Okay. There is no set way of doing this. If you want your moon to be bigger or smaller, let me know. Okay, not let me know, do what you want. This is your piece of art. This is just a practice piece. If you don't want to do our main piece, that's absolutely fine. If you just want to play with the experiments and the exercises that we're doing, that's absolutely fine too. Right, so we're going to add our masking fluid again. Start with a smaller circle and gradually get bigger, so that you can get a really clean edge. Try and make it as circular as possible. Okay. So the masking fluid is going to help us to keep some of the pieces of our paper completely free of paint until we remove the masking fluid. Now, if you want to, you can use your other little spoolie to do some tiny little dots in the sky. So we're going to do some tiny little stars just randomly in the sky, very, very tiny. Make them not uniform, some of them bigger than others, but still all of them pretty small. And most of them I would do right at the top. So don't go any further down than maybe a third of the page. And I would keep them as high as you can on the page, because the night sky, if you've noticed here, is going to be darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. So you're going to see the stars a lot more right at the top than you are the bottom. So don't need to do loads, just a few tiny little dots randomly all over your paper. If you know of any constellations that you want to add in, you're very welcome to do whatever you want. Right, we're going to leave that now. Put your lid on your masking fluid. And then oh, no, don't put your lid on. We haven't done the reflection. So again, if you were drawing a line where your horizon is, so the horizon of the piece, I'd say, is about here, because obviously you've got hills, so the horizon would be a bit shorter, lower than that. The distance between the moon from the horizon to the top and the horizon to the bottom would be about the same distance. Okay, so we're going to do a little wiggly line directly below our moon. And if you just do from a tiny, what you want it to do is be narrower at the top, wider in the middle, and narrower at the bottom. Because if we're doing a reflection, the reflection is not circular because it's on water. Okay, so I'm going to do a little wiggly line, narrow at the top, wider at the bottom, wider in the middle, sorry, and then narrower again at the bottom. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Try and do it so you can see the reflection. There you go. It's really hard to get it to see the reflection. Can you see that? Oh, it's easier to see on YouTube. And then just some tiny, we're just going to do the lake to the right hand side of the bottom, so the bottom right corner. We're just going to do some tiny little lines horizontally, just a couple of little horizontal lines, very, very thin lines. Don't worry if they're too thick, we can add some more paint to it later, but just a few tiny little horizontal lines around that bottom edge. Can you see that? I don't think I'm showing you very well, I'm sorry. It's like clear masking fluid on, trying to get it to catch some, oh, there you go, catch some of the reflection. Right, so now you can put the masking fluid lid back on. Careful not to spill it. And we're going to put this away over to the side. Right, we're now going to get another piece of paper. And I'm going to teach you how to use your watercolor paints to create darker and lighter colors. Okay, so get yourself some water. We're going to go through the spectrum of color, get some red, I'll go through the colours as well in a bit. I'm going to get some red, and we're going to do a little squiggle at the top of our page with some quite intense red, okay? Now we're not going to go back into this red. Once we've got our blob of red, we're going to add a bit of water to our paintbrush. Not loads, don't get it too wet. And then we're going to paint on there and just bring that colour down a bit. And if you notice, that's going to get a bit lighter. We're going to do the same thing again. Clean off your brush, get it a bit lighter. Paint down the page. As you notice, every time you do that, this colour gets lighter and lighter until it's pretty much transparent. And if you can keep going and try and do it so that it then becomes pretty much invisible. Okay, we're going to do the same with the next colour. If you have any questions at any point, please let me know. So we've got quite a strong burnt sienna colour here. I'm going to add some water. This colour is getting lighter and lighter until there's just a real hint of the colour. So try and get that fade to be as gradual as possible. What we're learning now is how to water these paints down to create different colours, and look at how many different tones of this colour we have just in using one colour of paint. Now, as you can see, my water is, try not to get it so that you have big blobs of water sitting on your paper. You want it to be wet but not saturated. We don't really want puddles sitting on our paper at the moment. When your paint starts getting a bit murky, you can chuck it away and get some more. Because as you're moving through, you probably don't need it up to 3 actually. I'm just going to do it up to 1. As you are moving through the colours, you don't want the water. You can see how important it is that your water is clean a lot of the time, because by the time you get down to the bottom, if you still had red in your water, it would make your green go a very muddy green by the time you get to the bottom. Oh, there's a bit too much water on there, so I'm just going to move the water down a bit. So when you're actually painting these, it looks like the water isn't going to give you any colour at the bottom, but as they dry, you'll see that it still does create an effect. And these very light colours are going to be really, really valuable to you when you're doing these paintings. Ooh, I nearly went back in for more blue then. I actually think I want it to be a bit darker at the top, so I am going to add a bit more blue just for the top bit, and then I'm going to kind of start the process again. So you can move this paint down through, and as you can see, this paper, as it's getting a bit wetter, it does tend to buckle a little bit. Notice how when there is a little bit more water, the watercolor paint will move around a little bit. Okay, so be aware of that. What we're doing at the moment is just learning how these paints work. So when you've got a better understanding of how they work, it can really help you to kind of guess how these things are going to go and control the paint better. You're all very quiet today. I hope you're all okay. Oh, Lola, you will be whizzing around in no time. Absolutely. And then we've got our grey. And this is a really important one, this grey, because this grey you can use for shadows, for so much, for depth. So we're going to look into that in a bit as well. Right. Okay, so when we've got all of our colours, this is all the colours you have. And just from those 7 colours, you will have huge varieties of tones in those. Okay, we're going to let that dry off as well. If you come back to your masking fluid piece, there will be, well, this all should, most of it should be dry now. If you want to get your pencil, you've got a rubber on the end of your pencil, and what you can do is just use the rubber to very gently rub off the masking fluid. If you kind of rub towards it, sometimes it will peel off and you can pull bits off and it's very satisfying. But if you do get a part where you can peel it off, be very careful and always pull away from itself. So if I was going to, let me see if I can do it here. Yeah, this bit. I'm not going to pull this line here. I'm not going to pull it that way because it will pull the paper and it will damage the paper. So what I would do is pull it away like this, because then it lifts. Can you see that? It lifts, but it doesn't damage the paper. Okay, pull it back, don't pull it forwards. And as you start to pull that off, sometimes it's thick enough that you can pull it off like this and it's very satisfying. Sometimes you need, if it's a bit thinner, you might need to use your rubber. So again, I'm pulling back on the paper, on the masking fluid, not forward. So most of that was thick enough to pull off. This bit I think might be a bit too thin. Yeah. So I'm just going to use my pencil eraser to rub that. And as you can see, the bits underneath stay perfectly white or perfectly paper colored. And the bits of paint that have sat and dried on that masking fluid just come off. So it's a really handy tool, masking fluid, when you're doing watercolor, because the white in the paper, the white in your painting is using the white color of your paper. Okay, so can you see that that has done a very good job of keeping those lovely crisp lines on our paper? So that is our masking fluid exercise done. So with your masking fluid, you can do things like this. This is a bit of a messy one that I did earlier, but I did a couple of these the other day just to kind of give you a bit of a idea as to what you can do if you want to do some abstract painting with masking fluid. You can just draw some lines, color in the bits in between. This is a really lovely exercise just to have a go and play with your watercolors. And that is, I haven't done any mixing. I've literally just used the colors as they are. Okay. So have a little go at doing that at some point. Right, now we're going to go back to our main painting. Hang on a minute. So, oh, hang on. I think we need to do a little bit of our colours, don't we? Yeah, what we're going to do first, actually. No, sorry. I do have this in order. If you were to use masking fluid over paint, would it remove the paint when peeled off? No, it should stay. It can pull off a little bit of the top layer again, but as long as you're pulling it away, so you can use it over the top of colors. If you wanted to do a really light wash of a color and then do something darker over the top and use the masking tape, that masking paint fluid, you absolutely can do that. Again, have a play. You've got absolutely loads of watercolor paper here. So have a play and just try things out, see what works, and see how it goes. So what we're going to do now is just do the sky. Okay, we're going to use I'm going to go through the names of the paints in a bit. I know it seems like we're doing it all backwards, but there is a method to my madness. This darker blue is called ultramarine blue. And then the red we're using is cadmium red. I'm going to go through the theory of the colours in a bit. What we're going to do is we're going to paint the sky and the lake first, and then we're going to let that dry. What we're going to do is mix a little bit of our cadmium blue, our ultramarine and our cadmium red and our burnt sienna. And we're going to make a really lovely textured sky. Right, so we're going to get our biggest paintbrush, and we're going to get it quite wet. We're going to, we're going to add a bit of water into one of the other wells in our palette. And this is where we're going to mix our colour. So when you've got watercolours, you'll be mixing a lot of colours, and when they dry, you can then reactivate them whenever you want to. So if we get a nice colour here and we activate it again, we want that colour again, you can reactivate it and you can use it again. So we're going to work our paint here, our ultramarine, and we're going to add it to our blob of water. Okay, sometimes you can kind of get a bit of the fluid off with the edge of the paper. Right, clean our brush off. We're going to get a little bit of cadmium red. I didn't clean it off very well there. Still got a little bit in there, and we're going to mix it in, and that is going to make our ultramarine a bit cooler and a bit darker. If you've noticed, it's not just like mixed blue and red and we get purple. We're going to be changing the dynamic of this blue with a little bit of red and a little bit of burnt sienna. So just the tiniest bit. And if you notice, this blob is now turning into a bit more of a grey blue. Okay. Now, make sure that all of the colours are mixed in. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a wash now across the top, right, just at the top of our piece. Ooh, don't drip. Yeah, we don't want it to drip. So we're going to do a line all the way across the top of our page, and it's going to go across the line of the masking tape. And this colour I'm going to add a bit more blue because I want this colour to be quite strong. I want it to be quite a dark colour at the top, like we did on our practice page. Add a bit more of the red. If you do mix your colours in the pads, don't worry, you can use water to clean them off again. Oh, hang on, not sure if it works on plastic, but I've done it on tinned watercolours. If you rub the pan with toothpaste for a minute, wash it off, it'll create a puddle instead of, oh. I've not seen that before, but that's a great tip. So if you rub the pan with toothpaste for a minute, wash it off, and then create a puddle instead of separating. What do you mean? So it goes kind of flat on the pan? Right, so we've got our line of darker blue at the top. Now we're going to do our technique that we did with our colours. Not too much water. We don't want this to be too wet, but we're going to add water. And as you can see, the watercolour is starting to move down through where the water is. We're going to move it down. And if we can have that to be dark enough, and we're also going to use this colour to do our lake at the bottom, okay? So we're going to add a line of the darker colour just halfway across our page. Keep that dark colour right at the bottom. Add some water. And we're going to drag this up. Make your lake kind of a funny shape. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. I'm going to add a bit more water, but make sure that it comes in from the side. Can you see that? Now, while your sky is still wet, you want it to be wet enough that you can still look at it and see that it's wet, okay? We don't want it to be saturated, but we want to still see it's wet. And once you're happy with how your sky is, if you want it to stay in a lovely gradient like that, ooh, I've just painted a fly onto my piece. If you want it to stay like a lovely gradient like this, we're going to paint just about halfway down. Yes, please, Hendy, please do a I'd really like to see a video of that. That'd be great. Right, as your watercolor is still wet, if you like it like that, leave it like that. If you want a bit of texture, so when you add salt to watercolors, it gathers the watercolor in certain places and spreads it in others. So it's kind of got a bit of a magnetic. It's obviously not magnetic, but if you get a bit of salt and you sprinkle it on your page, as long as you've got water on there as well, you'll see that the water starts to gather around the salt a little bit. Okay. Right, I'm just going to do that on the sky, and then we're going to move this and we're going to go on to another exercise. Is everybody okay? Is everybody clear on that bit? Be careful when you're moving your watercolors, because as I said, you also have movement on this because it's water. It is liquid sitting on paper. I'm going to put the lid on my salt so I don't spill it. I'm going to throw my water away and get some clean water. Right, we're now going to go through a little bit of colour theory. If you want to get a little bit more paper, and what we're going to do is I was going to write the colours of these paints on in your pad, but I think if we're going through it together, you'll understand and remember the colour theory a little bit more. So we're going to go through the colours, and we're going to do a little swab, and then we're going to write down the colours, and we're going to section them into warm and cool colours. So we're going to start with the red. If you do a little blob of the colours where I'm doing them as well, because what we're going to do is we're going to do the warm colours at the top and the cooler colours at the bottom. It might surprise you, some of these. So if you can imagine, warmer colours are normally like things that make you think of sunlight and fire and, you know, that warmth. And then cooler colors are like water and shade. So we're going to do the red on the top. The top colors are going to be our warm colors. So we're going to do a blob of red here. And this is our cadmium red. Get your pencil and write this down. Write them down as you paint them. So we're going to try and remember them. If you write warm at the top and cool at the bottom. So this is cadmium, CADMIUM, red. We've got burnt sienna, which will also go in the warm. Burnt sienna. If you need any of the spellings, let me know, but I'll take a picture and I'll put that on my page. We've got lemon yellow. Now, this is the one that is surprising, because yellow obviously is normally a warm color, but this is a cool yellow. And the reason is because it is on the bluer side of yellow rather than the orange side of yellow. So it's leaning towards the green pigments and the blue pigments. So we're actually going to put our yellow on the bottom with the cool colors. And this is lemon yellow. I'm going to write that down. We have our sap green, which is in the warm colors. So we're going to write that down. Oh, gosh. Sap green. And the reason why we're doing this is because when I'm calling them out in a bit, you'll be able to use this as your key to know what colors I'm talking about. Oh, thank you for the rose. Stop it. Let me just double check with the thingy that it's not going to cut us off. Oh, yeah, we've got a cut off message. Oh, sugar. Ah. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? That was a bit of excitement. Oh, gosh. Sorry about that. Right, is that okay? Right. Sorry about that. There's a little bit of excitement, and now you can see my... Right. Right. This one is, I don't know if it's cerulean or cerulean. I probably should know that, but it's CERULEAN blue. We've now got ultramarine blue, which is in our cool colours. And then we've got a neutral grey. So I'm just going to put it down by the cool, but on its own, because it is actually a neutral colour. So we can write neutral next to it. And so it's called neutral grey. And as you can see, you can get really dark colours with your neutral grey, but we're not going to use anything too deep. If you notice on your main painting now, as the paint is starting to dry, can you see the warmth of all those different colours coming through? So you've got the blue. We're not using a completely solid blue, and you're getting lovely shades of that burnt sienna, especially on the outlines where this is drying. Okay, so it just gives a little bit more texture to your colour. So we have our key now. We're going to keep this key somewhere handy so we can see what we're doing. Okay, right, let me get rid of this. Okay, how dry is your... We need our sky to be very dry. My sky is not quite dry enough yet, so we're going to do another little exercise to get us... where am I going to put that? Put that there. So if you can get another piece of paper. So watercolour will activate with water. Once it's on the page and it's dry, you do have a little bit of work room where you can layer the watercolour. Oh, yeah, of course, I will read out the colours again. So we've got cadmium red, burnt sienna, sap green, cerulean blue or cerulean blue, lemon yellow, ultramarine blue, and then neutral grey. Okay, I'm going to put them there as well for a bit. Let's have a little drink. Right. So the main piece is nearly dry, but we're going to do some little exercises with paint mixing now. So if you get yourself some clean water, it really needs to be completely clean water. Clean your brush. I'll clean it in the dirty stuff and then clean it in the clean stuff so it's nice and clean. We're going to paint 3 little, well, medium-sized circles now. Move that so you can see it. Just with water, okay? We're going to be painting and leaving quite a good amount of water in a circle, okay? Leave the hole in the middle. Don't fill it in, but make sure you can see the little swell of water. Don't know if you can see what I'm doing. So just paint a ring of water, and we're doing 3 of them. Okay. Once you've done the shape, if you notice, if there isn't enough water, you can just drip some water on and it will kind of fill in where you need it to go. Okay. Now we're going to use the primary colours. We're going to use our cadmium red. We're going to get some paint. Going to really work this paint, so there's quite a lot on our brush. And on the first circle, we're going to use our paintbrush and we're just going to touch that water just for a second and then let it go. And as you can see, that paint will start to swell all the way around that circle. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush off. I'm going to do the same with yellow. Get quite a lot of paint on. If you do a very quick dab, you get a tiny amount of paint. If you leave your paintbrush on there, you get more paint coming off that the brush. And then we're going to do blue. We'll do the cerulean blue. Get a good amount of paint. And we're going to do a blob at the bottom of the ring. And as you can see, it starts to spread. And sometimes then when you release it, it then spreads even more. So it will start moving. Okay, so as you can see, the paint will move into the spaces that the water is. But what you can do with this as well is you can get some really lovely, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of effects. Why was that so hard? When you add different colors. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little blob of yellow to the top of the red and see what happens. We're just being experimental here. Just choose a tiny little blob. And as you can see, the paint starts to mix. I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to add some cerulean blue to my yellow ring. See what happens. I'm going to add it there. It is. It is. It's, well, people are watching. Thank you, though. Thanks, baby. Kid just came to tell me that it hasn't been working, but I'm pretty sure you guys are talking back to me, so I think that we're all okay. Sandra, yeah, I can repeat the names of the colours again. So we've got, I'll show you there, cadmium red, burnt sienna, sap green, cerulean blue, lemon yellow, ultramarine blue, and neutral grey. And then I'm going to add a bit of the red. I hope I'm not going too quickly for you guys. I'm going to add a little blob of red to the blue one. So even though right at the beginning, it doesn't look like, shall I leave that there for a bit? Maybe there. Is that annoying? Even though right at the beginning, it doesn't really look like they're mixing. They very slowly begin to mix. If you want them to mix quicker, you can give them a little wiggle, maybe with the smaller paintbrush. You can kind of mix the colours in a little bit. Again, please just have a play, see how it goes. I like the fact that sometimes the two colours stay a little bit further apart and sometimes they intermingle. They kind of create these lovely little effects. So what we're doing is just experimenting. We're just seeing how the paint works and what they look like when they do mix. When you put less water in, you know, have a little play, do some more circles, add loads of paint sometimes add a tiny bit of paint, see what it does. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same thing with a bigger circle, and we're going to add all three colors. We're going to create a color wheel, but just with, my water could do with a change, because as you can probably see, it's a little bit orangey. So I'm going to add cadmium red to maybe the top. I'm going to add the lemon yellow to one side. And it's funny, isn't it, how it then starts pushing back at some of the other colors. It's just a really interesting thing to see how these paints work together. So I'm just going to do some blue there, and then I'm just going to let them sit. And then they'll start to spread and intermingle into each other. I just want to do one extra little one second. One extra little exercise, and what we're going to do is use our find our greens using the different kinds of blue. So we're going to use quite a lot of different greens with our with this piece. I'm just going to move that. And what I want you to do is do a little mix of, I'm going to get some new paint actually, new water, sorry. Oops, getting water everywhere. We'll do a little mix of yellow on our palette. And we'll add a tiny bit of cerulean blue. And as you can see, we're making a bit of a limey green colour. And that's a nice warm green. And we'll do the same again with a bit of yellow. And then our darker blue. Give that a little bit of a mix. And you'll see that it creates a kind of cooler green. Can you see the difference? So now, right, we are going to mix a grey as well. What you can do is use some opposite colours of the colour wheel, and you can get some different types of grey. So we're going to use a little bit of ultramarine and a bit of burnt sienna, and what that will create is a really lovely grey that we can use for our hills. Okay. So a bit of ultramarine, a bit of burnt sienna, and if it's still looking a bit blue, add a bit more burnt sienna until the colour, because you're basically using a warm colour and a cooler colour. If it still looks a bit too blue, add some more burnt sienna. If it still looks a bit too orangey, add a bit more of the blue until you've got quite a neutral grey. So you can use your neutral grey, or you can mix the grey, because we do want different shades of grey in this. You can use your neutral grey if you want. Put it next to your colour. Right. So shall we do our little hillside horizon line? I'm going to put this. Be careful as you move this, because some of the water is still quite wet. And as you move it, again, you can see those paint colours mixing a little bit more. Can you see them? They're mixing a little bit more as the water moves. So be a bit careful. I mean, if you want them to move, then carry on. So when we have what we're going to do now is add our horizon line, okay? All right, let's 1 second here. We're going to get our grey, and we're going to paint a very uneven horizon. Are you all comfortable with your brush strokes, or would you like, should we have a little practice actually with our brush strokes? Let's get ourselves another piece of paper. And what I want you to do is practice a couple of different brush strokes. What we're going to do for our horizon is use the side of the brush. You can have a couple of practices on here. We're going to use the brush so it's facing upwards, and we're going to come across, okay? But we're going to go up and down slightly, but our brush will be pointing upwards all the time. We never want to be going against the bristles, because it's always really good to look after our brushes. But with the horizon, we can kind of use our brush, face it upwards, and do some jaggedy sidewards motions. Okay, like this. Can you have a little try with that? We'll do one, and then if I want it to be a bit darker, you can add a bit more paint. And then again, what we're going to do is blend that down with a bit of water so it gets lighter slightly underneath. Okay. Again, try it again if you want. If you're happy to mix the colours, mix the colours. If you want to just use your neutral grey, then do that. We'll do another one. Keep your brush facing up. Go sideways. I've got a little bit of the gum on the end of this paper. Sideways, jaggedy, up and down to make a nice jaggedy hillside. When you're looking at the horizon in the countryside, it's very rarely flat. You've got trees, you've got bushes, you've got hills. Especially, I'm down in Somerset, so you get lots of it down here. There we go. Okay, do you feel comfortable drawing your horizon lines now? And what we're going to do as well, just something to remember when you're doing any kind of artwork. When you want things to move further away, we're going to use darker colors. Darker colors create shadows. Lighter colors create light. So basically what we're doing here is just painting light and shadows with different colors. We want the horizon, it's quite far away. We want it to be shady. Okay, and we're going to bring the color, the light, further towards the eye, so further towards the bottom of the page. Okay, are we all confident enough to do ourselves a hill line on here? Right, get yourself some water. This is pretty dry now. Some of that paint, some of that salt may start coming off. So if there's anything quite close to the line, maybe give it a little brush off. Okay, are we ready to do our hill line? If you want it to be so that there's a hill coming in from the left or a hill coming in from the right, like whatever you want to do, go with what you're feeling. Okay, if you want to do a little Glastonbury tour in the background, anything like that, you carry on. Do you? Okay, I'm going to go. As I painted over that salt, it reacted a little bit. But it's fine. We're going with it. There's no mistakes in art. We're just learning. We're learning the techniques. Okay, and then again, we are going to add some water and bring that down just a little bit. Don't want it to be too wet. Okay. So as we're getting a bit further down, we're going to add a little bit of sap green to this to the wetness of this, just to bring, just at the bottom layer of our hillside. So we're going to bring a little bit of the colour in here. And as we blend that out, I'm going to bring more of the sap green. So we're pulling some of that colour down, okay? And then add more water. So we're going to be making that lighter and lighter as we come further forward. You can go up roughly to the edge of the lake, but again, just in terms of time, we don't want this to be really wet because it's not going to dry in time. You can add a little bit of the lemon yellow to the bottom so that you've got a bit of the green, not too much, just that was probably a bit too much for me, but we're going to add a bit of the lemon yellow. And at this point, it doesn't really matter if we are very neat with it. You can add just blobs of the paint. This bit, but make sure that your brush strokes are going left and right, okay? We don't want up and down strokes here. We want everything to be moving evenly left and right. If you get some of the paint from the darker bit, you can add some tiny little lines if there's any bits, so mine's kind of separated a little bit. I want to even that out, and I can add some horizontal lines through a bit further down just to add a bit of texture. Nothing too much, but sometimes these little bits that you might think, oh, I don't know if I like that. If you don't like that this is dried faster one part and the other rather than the other, can you see this bit here? This bit's dried faster than that. It's created a little line where the water was, but I quite like that. It makes it look like there's another layer of trees or something in the foreground. So our picture is really starting to take shape now. Is everybody happy with what they are doing so far? Now, as long as this isn't too wet, we can start adding a few foreground details. We want this to dry. And if it is too wet, you can blow dry it, you can blow on it. I'm going to change my water again while it's drying a little bit. And sometimes the paint does different things every time. Don't try and control it too much. You know, it's an experiment. Even the best painters, I think, a lot of the time, these paintings don't quite come out the way that they were expecting, but you can really play with that, and you can really just, I think sometimes an art piece will just take on a mind of its own and it will do its own thing. And there's real beauty in that. Right, so I've not gone too wet around this lake, so I might start to add a little bit of foreground details here. So around the edge of our lake, if it's dry for you, if it's not, then maybe take a couple more minutes. I'm going to mix some sap green and some burnt sienna, and I'm going to create a bit of a browny color. So an orange and green together will create a bit of a brown color. I'm going to use one of my smaller brushes. I'm going to mix some sap green. Put some water in there. And some burnt sienna. And this will create a nice marshy brown color. Right, we're gonna just around the edges of the lake. I'm just going to do some little flicky brown. I want it to be a little bit lighter than that. We don't want it to be too opaque at this point. Little wiggly lines to just create the effect of some marshes all around the edge of the lake. Don't make it uniform, just shove some little wiggly, squiggly lines. And all of them from the line kind of going upwards. So imagine you've got bits of grass sticking up from all of the edge of the lake. If you can see the line of the lake too much, then maybe paint over a little bit more just to soften that little edge. Okay. With the same color, we're going to create the illusion that the viewer is sitting quite low in the grass. So from the bottom, you can add some little grass, like the effects of grass just going upwards, all in different directions. Don't make them uniform. and start painting on the masking tape and paint upwards. It will look a bit crazy at the minute. And so in your palette, you've got lots of different shades of grey and brown. We're going to keep these quite light for the beginning because these are going to be the background ones. And we're just going to add some flicky up lines just to make it look a little bit like grass. Okay, with these, what we're going to do now is create a darker green with a bit of your green and a bit of your burnt sienna, but we're going to keep it quite green this time. And what we want here is some details in our field. You might find that the top of your horizon is still a little bit wet still. Mine's a bit drier at the bottom, so I'm just going to avoid the wet bits for now. I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna to my green just to make it a bit of a deeper, bit of a cooler green. And we're going to just add some texture to our meadow here. Again, we're moving sideways. And we'll just add some horizontal lines just to add some texture to that field. Can you see? You'll notice that if your brush is wetter, the paint will go on smoother. If you want a bit more texture, let your brush go a bit drier and you'll get a bit more texture out of your brush. Okay, I'm going to make that green a little bit browner with a bit of burnt sienna and a bit of the grey as we move upwards to give some more texture to the fields here. And then I'm going to do a little hedgerow. Okay, so we want things in the background to be quite neutral. They're getting more neutral as we get to the horizon. So I'm going to use a little bit of the neutral grey and a little bit of the green. Mix those together. And just below where the horizon is, probably, well, where the tip of our main hilly horizon is, we're just going to do a little, again, almost like another horizon, but just very messy blobs of trees, basically, is what we're doing. We're going to blob our paintbrush to create little effects of trees. Every now and again, make one of them taller, because you're going to have some different hills and different trees in the distance. It doesn't have to go all the way along. You can kind of taper it out, so you've got some smaller plants. And if you want to do one big tree, we could do one big tree. So again, I'm going to get, so a lot of the time what we're doing here is we're just seeing the shadow of the tree rather than the actual color. We're not doing a brown, we're not doing a brown trunk and green leaves, you know. We're looking at it from this side. The light source is behind the tree. So if you can make yourself a little grey brown color, maybe a little bit of green. So you want a bit of burnt sienna, a bit of green, and a bit of the neutral grey. Make it darkish, not super dark. And we're going to do a tree from our tree line going up with a blob on the top for our tree. And then if you look at where the moon is, and we're going to do a diagonal line straight from where the moon is to the base of the tree, and we're going to pull it out so that it will show the shadow will go from the moon directly across as if there was a straight line. We're just going to do a little line across. Can you see that? Little line there, and then we're going to add the shadow of the top of the tree. Can you see here? So we've got a line from here across to here. And that shadow should be a nice cool grey. Okay, and it will just fade out a bit. If you want to do another one, you can do another one. Okay. So around our lake should be a little bit drier now. And we're going to add a bit of shadow right at the edge of where we've added our reeds to just give that effect of, you know, the darkness where the reeds and the lake join. So add a little darker shade all the way around the lake. We don't want super harsh lines here. If you can do your darker line, and then you can maybe blend it in a bit to the lake colours. And that will create a lovely effect where you're coming into the water, you're adding the shadow, and the shadow is coming into the water. Again, don't be afraid to paint over that masking tape. Right. As we come down towards the bottom, we're going to add a few more green, dark green and shadowy, actually, sorry. We'll add a few more little wispy bits around the lake first. Make sure you don't paint over the, so if you paint, sorry, I'm not explaining things very well, am I? If you do some darker little wispy bits to look like grass around the lake again, you've got that texture there to make it look a bit more grass-like. And so you've got the lighter colours of the grass, then you've got the shadow, and then you've got some darker wisps. So what we're going to do now is just have a look at your painting and see where you think you might need some more detail. We're going to add some more of the darker and different colour grasses at the bottom, just to draw the viewer's eye. It just gives you a sense of depth to your painting. You can see that closer to you will be bigger pieces of grass, and then further away you've got the impression that there is grass, but you're not actually seeing blades of grass. And then add a few darker pieces again as you go, just to give you a bit more texture. Some blobs of the darker colour in that hedgerow. Again, if you've got any big pieces of trees, add some shadow to the left-hand side of them, because the moon would be coming from that angle, from this angle. So it would create a shadow on the left-hand side of a lot of these bigger trees. Add some shadows. Okay. And then just a bit more texture if you want to. You can add some more horizontal lines to just create just a bit more interest in the meadow. However you think, whatever you think, just play around. There's no right or wrong way to do this. If the line of your lake looks a bit too harsh, then just do a bit of blobbing with a bit of burnt sienna and then make it a bit darker with your dark grey. It's a bit too dark, so I'm lightening it with water. Just have a play. Do what you think. Is everybody okay? Does anyone need any help or anything? Thank you very much. I'll stop it. Just going to add a bit of that colour blending down into my lake. And then what we can do when it's all dry, we are nearly done. And what we can do is take off the masking fluid on the moon. So we use our rubber. If you do, be careful if your hands are dirty. You don't want to be getting any paint on the moon. And again, pull away from the masking fluid, not towards it. And you should have a nice, clean moon here. Once you've done that, you don't want the moon to be perfectly white because it doesn't look very realistic. I'm going to add the tiniest bit of lemon yellow, but with a tiny bit of the neutral grey or a tiny bit of blue maybe, just to get a very, very, very light yellowy colour. And we're just going to put a bit of texture across the moon. So like a few, like, again, horizontal lines might make it look a little bit more realistic. And then if you get a very light wash of ultramarine blue, very, very light wash, and you circle around the moon, it will give this lovely, it will soften that line, but it will also give a little halo around the moon, just the tiniest light wash of like mainly water, but a little bit of a glow around the moon. Can you see that? It's a little bit of a glow. And you don't want the lines to be completely perfect. You want it to be, okay. When you're done with that, again, you can use your rubber to rub off your stars. It will also rub off some of the salt, but you could do that with your hand or with your, it's a little bit harsher with the salt. That will bring some of the stars out. And the salt you'll be able to rub off, but please don't rub it off until your painting is completely dry, because it will smudge the paint. Your fingers will smudge the paint. But look at the texture it's given. I mean, that's lovely on, if you ever do like a mountaintop or something, you can get that lovely effect. If you want to dampen down your stars a little bit as well, sometimes it's just a case of using a little bit of water. Just going around them a little bit so that you've got a little bit, you soften that pure white a little bit. And pretty much that is all I have to tell you. So you've got your, oh, hang on, I haven't taken off the masking tape off the bottom, sorry. Again, same again. We're going to take off the masking tape, and then we're just going to add a little bit more detail to the lake to, you know, you don't want those completely white bits of paper showing through. Okay, so again, with the lake, what we're going to do is add a little bit of our ultramarine blue, take it a little bit grayer, and we're going to lighten it with water so it's not too dark, and some very, very small and gentle, that's way too dark, small and gentle lines going through that the shadow, the reflection, because we don't want it to be too massive. So you just have the hint of a reflection. Again, you can add a little bit of yellow to this if you want to. You want that shadow to be coming through, and then the little bit of yellow just to, however much you put in the top, just add a little bit in the bottom. Just a hint of yellow, lemon yellow. Texture through the water with a little bit of ultramarine blue. And then just to finish it off, if you get some of your darker brown, so where you've taken your masking fluid off, make sure that you get some of the darker leaves of, you know, grass. Oh gosh. See, this is my mistake for the day. I put too wet into the, where my reflection is, but that's fine. It looks like a reed. I'm happy with that. Can you see? This bit's just spread out a bit, but I'm going with it. It's fine. And we're going to do some of those lines to make sure they go across where our reflections were, because otherwise, if, you know, those reflections, these reeds are closer to us than those reflections are. So they would obviously go across where that is. Right, when you're finished, and we're taking off our masking tape, there is a technique with that as well. If you're pulling it towards the painting, you're going to rip the, because our paper is a little bit wet, we're going to rip the paper and we're going to pull the paper apart. So what you need to do is rip away from your painting. So you get the edge of your masking tape and pull. So I'm taking this piece off, we're pulling that way. Okay, so you get a clean edge, pulling away diagonally from the paper. We're not pulling towards it, it will rip your paper, okay? Again, getting the edge again, pulling diagonally away. It will lift the paper a tiny bit, but look at that lovely border we've created. Sometimes it does bleed a little bit, like the one I did earlier. It's bled a little bit in that corner, but it's fine. It shows that it's handmade. Right, we're pulling away. And again. And there you have it. One lovely watercolor piece. I'd love to see your pieces. Let me know how you got on. I'd love to see your pieces in our Facebook group. If you are happy to share them, I would really, really love to see what your paintings look like. I'd love to see what your experiments looked like and how you got on with those. There is so many things you can do with watercolor. You can just be doing, like, use it as mark making. Be curious. Just try things out. You can see how the colors move into each other. You can do, lovely little brush strokes. Thick, thin, thick is always a really good exercise. Use your paintbrush and just do very gentle strokes. Use the end of the paintbrush to get that really thin edge, and then push down harder to get the thicker line, and then go gently again to get that thinner. That's a really good exercise to keep trying. You've got some salt here, and then you've also got some flowers again, which were just adding lots of water and then dropping colors into the water just to give you lots of different techniques. So have a little play. Let me know how you get on with your watercolors. Oh, excuse me. Please do give me any feedback if you have enjoyed your workshop today. Sorry, I feel like I haven't been able to get my words out very well, but I hope that you've enjoyed it. Let me know if there's anything else you need. And I hope you have a really lovely month. Please join us for next month. We are going to be doing a completely new craft again, something completely different. And I am really looking forward to seeing you next month. Goodbye. Goodbye. Oh.